Hi, good morning, and happy Saturday. Welcome to the Larson Health Podcast, where we bridge science, nutrition, and functional medicine to help you heal from the inside out. I'm Kim Larson, certified functional nutrition coach, fast like a girl coach, and founder of Larson Health Weight Loss, as well as larsonnutrition.com. Here we talk about real health transformation, how food, fasting, and lifestyle can change your hormones, metabolism, and longevity. So today we're diving into one of the most misunderstood topics in women's health because it proportionally impacts women more than men, is your thyroid and how it's connected to your hormones. This tiny little butterfly-shaped gland at the base of your neck might be small, but it runs your metabolism, your energy, your brain, and even your mood. So when the thyroid's off, everything feels off. Your motivation, your weight, your sleep, your digestion. But here's the thing most people don't realize is that the thyroid issues rarely start in the thyroid itself. They're almost always secondary to something upstream: stress, hormones, toxins, or inflammation. So instead of treating the thyroid like it's broken, we're going to look at what's driving the imbalance. So let's start with estrogen, because this is where a lot of women start to notice shifts in their thyroid as they move through their 30s, 40s, and 50s. When estrogen is high relative to progesterone, what we call estrogen dominance, it can block the thyroid in a few key ways. First, it tells the liver to make more of a protein called thyroxine binding globulin, or TBG, thyroxine binding globulin. That protein grabs onto the thyroid hormones and holds them hostage. So even if your thyroid is producing enough, much of it becomes bound, meaning it can't reach your cells to do its job. That's why so many women are told their labs look normal, but they still feel cold, tired, foggy. The hormones are in the bloodstream. They're just not available to the tissues. Estrogen dominance also slows the conversion of T4 into T3, and T3 is the active hormone that powers your metabolism and your energy. This conversation mostly happens in your liver, which is also responsible for detoxifying excess estrogen. So when the liver is overloaded from stress, toxins, or alcohol, both estrogen and thyroid function take a hit. And finally, excess estrogen can trigger immune changes that make women more vulnerable to autoimmune thyroid conditions like Hashimoto's. So that's one of the reasons why women experience thyroid disorders nearly 10 times more than men. So I know that when I hit menopause, all of a sudden I had Hashimoto's. And then I was talking to my mom and she goes, "Oh yeah, I've had Hashimoto's for years." Well, she probably got it after her menopause. So this happens once we go through the hormonal changes, right? We don't have the protective hormones going on in our bodies with progesterone and estrogen, and also testosterone decreases. So these things are protecting our body. They're lowering the inflammation in our body. They're taking care of making sure that our body stays in sync. But if you're eating bad foods and you're eating, you got a lot of stress in your life and you're not working out, you're not taking care of your body, the one body you have, these things will start to happen because your hormones get out of whack when you don't eat the proper foods that your body was meant to consume. When you eat fast food, when you eat donuts, when you eat muffins, when you eat, a scone, all of these things, this is not what our body was made to eat. It was made to eat. Think about our ancestors, when we were cavemen or even, after that. There was not these industrial cereals and industrial breads. And I mean, it was all, handmade, and it was not made in these big industrial machines. This is what's called highly processed foods. So I really want you to focus in on trying not to buy your canned foods. Think about getting organic vegetables, frozen or fresh. I buy a lot of frozen because they pick them at peak and they freeze them then. And because otherwise they go bad. Sometimes I just can't get to it fast enough and it'll go bad in the fridge and then it's wasted. So a lot of times I just buy frozen. If you can't afford, Lord knows everything is so expensive right now. If you can't afford to buy organic, at least just buy vegetables and protein. Vegetables are your fiber. So this is your fiber, like in bell peppers and broccoli, green beans, Brussels sprouts, spinach, uh, all these leafy green vegetables, right? Onions, garlic are really good for your body to help your immune system. So try to focus on, some people just can't seem to cook. So what I typically do is on the weekends, we'll go shopping on Friday after work. We don't use the excuse of like, oh, I'm tired after the work week. We actually will go shopping on Friday night after work because it's not busy, because everybody else and their mother is using that same bullshit excuse. So don't use that excuse. Go grocery shopping on Friday night after work. Get all the groceries that you need for the week. Plan ahead. If you don't cook, if you do the microwave for everything, just don't microwave in plastic, please. Use your plates, your bowls that are not plastic. And so let's just talk about cortisol. Let me move on. So when we add in cortisol, your main stress hormone, into this picture, cortisol is incredibly helpful in short bursts. It keeps you alert. It manages your blood sugar. It helps you respond to daily challenges. But when stress becomes chronic, when you're running on empty, juggling too much, and never really recovering, cortisol stays elevated. And that's when it starts suppressing thyroid function. High cortisol turns down the release of TSH, the brain's signal to the thyroid, and it also blocks that key T4 to T3 conversion. You can think of it as your body's shifting into energy conservation mode. It's protecting you, but it's slowing everything down in the process. So over time, this can lead to what people call adrenal fatigue, where cortisol eventually drops from being overused. You feel wired but tired. Your energy crashes mid-afternoon. Your sleep suffers and your thyroid stays sluggish. This is one of the biggest hidden causes of low thyroid symptoms. Not a thyroid problem itself, but a stress problem that's showing up through the thyroid. So let me share a story. One of my clients, I'll call her Sarah, came to me in her early 40s. She was a busy mom of two, working full time, trying to do it all. She was exercising 5 days a week, eating clean, and doing intermittent fasting because she read it would help her metabolism. But she felt awful. She was exhausted, bloated, and gaining weight anyway. Her doctor said her thyroid was fine, but when we ran a full panel, her free T3 was low, her progesterone was low, her cortisol was high at night, her liver markers were sluggish too, and in other words, her body was overwhelmed. We didn't start with supplements or calorie cuts. We started with restoration, adding healthy fats back into her diet, stabilizing her blood sugar, tracking what food she eats to make sure she's getting enough protein, healthy fats, healthy fiber, healthy vegetables, cutting her alcohol for a month, building in recovery days instead of more workouts. Within 6 weeks, she started sleeping again. Her energy came back. And after a few months, her thyroid numbers improved naturally, not with medications. I can tell you that with my Hashimoto's, I have never taken a medication for it. I have managed it. So there's a big study out there that talks about iodized salt. So apparently a lot of people were starting to get Hashimoto's or thyroid problems when there wasn't any iodine in the diet because people are not eating whole foods filled with iodine. So even though I eat foods that are high in iodine or naturally have iodine, I shouldn't say high in iodine, but naturally have iodine like seaweed or there's other vegetables that are high in it or meats. I will. I also supplement with my Shaklee women's multivitamin that actually has, and so I don't use table salt. So because you need your iodine, and apparently this was the research was about putting iodine in salt, and this is one of the best things that ever happened to helping people across the globe get rid of their thyroid problems was just having iodine salt. So even though there's like iodine that, I talked about this in my last podcast, even though there's like sea salt and Himalayan salt and all these different salts, they're mineral bases. They do have minerals in them, but it's so low. You really need to get, your supplements with your vitamins, making sure that you're eating whole foods to get your supplements. And, and it's difficult to get all of our supplements from the whole foods, but making sure that you're getting iodized rich foods, or make sure that you get table salt because you're going to need the iodine. So this is what happens when you stop chasing the symptoms and you actually start supporting the system. So let's talk about diet, because food is information. It's chemistry. Every bite you take either supports or stresses your thyroid. The thyroid depends on nutrients like selenium, zinc. So taking 2 Brazil nuts a day gives you all the selenium you need. Zinc, iodine, iron, and healthy fats. So the thyroid depends on nutrients like selenium, zinc, iodine, iron, and healthy fats. I always cook my food in an iron skillet. I always, I don't get it every day, but I try to get 2 Brazil nuts every day. I put it in my breakfast, or, and I'm working on getting my protein. So I just started using MyFitnessPal, or there's some other apps that are out there that are free, and I'm tracking what I'm consuming. So I make sure I'm getting my selenium, I'm getting my zinc, I'm getting my iodine, I'm doing my iron. And I try to get at least a half an avocado every day. And I get some pumpkin seeds in my breakfast. So that really does help with getting everything. And then I try to also get my nitric oxide through my beets or beetroot powder that I put into my breakfast. So selenium helps your body convert T4 to T3, and it protects your thyroid from oxidative stress. You'll find it in Brazil nuts, seafood, and sunflower seeds. Zinc helps make thyroid hormones and supports the immunity and your immunity. So iodine is literally part of the hormone structure, but too much iodine, especially in autoimmune conditions, can backfire. So that's why in functional medicine, we always test before supplementing. Healthy fats are essential, especially omega-3s from fish, olive oil, and avocados. And if you don't like fish, I love fish. I don't necessarily like the mackerel and the sardines. So I try to eat salmon at least once a week. And I take an omega-3 from Zinzino every single day. And I can tell you that when I've had my blood work done, my omega-3s are on the top with 1 percentile across the world. So my omega-3s are strong. My omega-6s are long, because are very balanced, I should say, or low, because I don't eat a lot of processed foods that are high in inflammatory omega-6. If you get too much omega-6, it can become inflammatory, again, causing more problems. So healthy fats are essential, especially omega-3s from fish, olive oil, and avocados, and medium chain fats from coconut oil. So I only cook with coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or ghee or butter, grass-fed butter. So these help regulate your hormones. They stabilize inflammation, and they improve receptor sensitivity, so your cells can actually hear the thyroid signal. And then there's the other side, foods that disrupt thyroid function. Processed foods, refined carbs, and inflammatory oils are major triggers. If you check my social posts, I put out there all the time what are the like hateful eight per se, right? What are the bad oils that are out there that are inflammatory, like cottonseed oil, peanut oil. There's just so many oils out there that are so bad for you. Any of the seed oils, most of the seed oils are bad. So think about white bread, pastries, all these soybean oil and canola oil. These foods spike blood sugar. they create inflammation and damage your gut. And that gut is where about 20% of your active thyroid hormone is produced. So if you're eating and you're getting like I got a gut issue, you could have leaky gut. And leaky gut could be from taking the pill for years or from the foods that you're eating. If you get bloating, if you get I don't get any bloating, I don't get gut issues. None of that stuff happens to me because I'm eating well. So if your gut is inflamed, your immune system goes on high alert, right? So this is your gut-brain axis. You've got this, the vagus nerve goes from your brain down to your gut, and this communicates. It's amazing how much information goes from your gut to your brain. And when you're not eating right, it dysregulates your whole body. So if your gut is inflamed, your immune system goes on high alert, and over time, that can lead to autoimmune thyroid disease like Hashimoto's. And one of the most well-researched dietary triggers is gluten. I keep telling my clients, you can't have gluten. Don't eat gluten. Because in America, what they do is it's all genetically, well, not all, it's 90% genetically modified. Now, I go to a bakery and I get some bread, but it's all fermented bread. So the gluten in America is genetically modified. And what genetically modified means is that they can spray it and it won't die. So they can spray it with all the bug sprays so that bugs don't eat it, and they can spray it for weeds and the plant will not die. But in the meantime, what happens is all those chemicals are ingested into the plant and you are eating those chemicals. This is I've talked about this many times, right? So this is the Roundup, this is the glyphosate, this is the what used to be called Agent Orange. This is all a part of the same chemicals made from the same chemical companies that are providing all this stuff, and they do not care about your health. The government's working on trying to help you with your health, but a lot of them don't care about your health. So the protein in gluten is called gliadin, and it looks similar to the thyroid tissue. So when your immune system reacts to gluten, it can mistakenly attack your thyroid too, a process called molecular mimicry. That's why so many people see huge improvements in energy and antibody levels after removing gluten. Not because gluten is bad per se, but because their immune system confuses it with their own tissue. And that's scary. And all of this loops back to inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the common denominator in almost every thyroid issue, whether it's coming from your diet or stress or toxins or infections. I can tell you, I went for an interview to a plastic company, and I was walking in there and I could see everybody pulling out the garbage bags and the plastic covers for products, and the smell. I was like, oh my God, the smell was so bad. Now, I'm sure they got used to it because I can remember when I was in my 20s bartending and smoking was still allowed in the bars, and my nose would just shut it off. All the cigarette smoke in the air that was like, oh, it would just shut it off. And so eventually I didn't even smell it anymore because it was just everywhere. But when you're not in those toxic areas and you're not under that toxic environment, you walk into it and you have a clean body, you're like, ooh, God, the smell. And you know that that's causing inflammation for everybody, and they're getting sick from it. Plastics are just, that's a whole nother subject I can get into with these microplastics. Do not microwave in plastic. Do not have plastic containers for your food. Do not use plastic Ziplocs to freeze things. Do not use, there's Cleanomic has these great bags. I use Cleanomic. I'm sure there's other brands out there as well, but I use Cleanomic, and they have great bags that are non-toxic. They're biodegradable. And I put in my frozen berries. So we buy all those berries, like you've probably seen on social media. They're all organic berries. And then I put them all into these Cleanomic sandwich bags and throw them in the freezers. And I'll have that with my breakfast. So I'll pull out some frozen berries. I'll let them thaw out, put them into my yogurt with my organic Greek yogurt with my organic, cottage cheese. And I'll have some berries and some chia seeds and Himalayan tartary buckwheat sprout powder. I'll put in some protein mix. I'll put in some peanut butter mix. I'll put in avocado, half an avocado. I'll put in, there's just, I want to make sure that I'm getting enough protein, some peanut butter powder and the Shaklee 100% grass fed and finished whey protein. So I'm getting enough protein. So I'm trying to I don't eat 3 meals a day. I typically eat just 2. Like I haven't eaten yet and it's 10:20 Eastern time. And I won't eat until after the podcast. And the last time I ate last night was 6 p.m. So I'm going to have a long fast. And then the time that I'll be done eating is about 4 o'clock. And this helps lower the inflammation in your body by fasting. When you fast for at least 17 hours, you turn on autophagy. And autophagy goes around and cleans up all the senescent cells that are like dying and causing inflammation. It'll go through naturally and just start cleaning up all that stuff. That's why I try to fast at least for 24 hours, 17 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours. That all starts to turn on stem cells. People pay thousands of dollars for stem cells. I'm going off in all different kinds of tangents. But when you fast for longer periods of time, you really start to help your body heal. So, like I said, the chronic inflammation is the common denominator in almost every thyroid issue. So fasting really helps in eating clean, whether it's coming from your diet or stress or toxins or infections. The modern diet is full of inflammatory drivers: sugar, refined flour, industrial oils, and processed snacks. You can find actually some healthy snacks at Costco or Walmart. Actually is starting to have some healthy foods that don't have gluten. They're made with almond flour and they don't have any sugars, or they have a healthier type of sugar. But I try to just avoid all the processed snacks, because these foods not only elevate insulin and cortisol, but they also deplete the very nutrients your thyroid needs to function. The solution isn't deprivation, it's nourishment. Okay? You're not depriving your body of anything, you're nourishing it. Real food, clean protein, healthy fats, vegetables, fiber, and hydration. These give your liver, your gut, and your hormones the raw materials to rebalance naturally. If you want a simple way to start, just begin by swapping out those refined carbs like white bread for whole fiber-rich foods like sweet potatoes, leafy greens, cauliflower rice. Replace seed oils with olive oil or avocado oil, and eat enough protein, at least a palm-sized portion in every meal. So take your weight, your ideal weight, and eat 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per your ideal body weight. So my ideal body weight is 150. So I should be eating between 110, whatever 0.7 is, maybe 112, 100 something to 150 grams of protein a day. So I will try to get, when I at my first meal, I'll try to get 40 to 50. You don't really want to go over about 60 grams, because at that point it just turns into sugar. So try to get at least like 40 or 50 grams of protein within one meal. At least that's what I try to do. If you're going to eat 3 meals a day, you try to break up your 100 plus whatever. So I try to get 50 in my first, 50 in my next. So I'm getting at least 100 grams of protein a day. Or if I can do a little bit more, if I have a little bit of another meal, and then I'll eat between 11 o'clock and 4 o'clock. So I'm eating in a 5-hour window, and then I'm going to fast the rest of the time. So I'm going to get over a 17-hour fast. So it's not about perfection, right? It's about direction. Every better choice moves your thyroid closer to balance. So we pull all this together: estrogen balance, stress regulation, detox support, nutrient optimization, and anti-inflammatory eating. The thyroid begins to recover. You start waking up with energy again. You can focus. You don't need 3 cups of coffee to get going. I can tell you, I have decaf coffee every day. I might put 1 scoop of caffeinated into it, but I might just get my caffeine from a tea. But I typically don't because I want my energy level to be even. I have enough energy for the day. I don't need to be bouncing off the walls. So if you've been told your thyroid is fine, but you still feel off, trust that instinct. You know your body better than anyone. So I went to Function Health and I got a panel done of my work. My doctor never found that I had Hashimoto's. They never did the proper test to figure this out. So when I went to Function Health, they told me I had Hashimoto's. Is because they did the full panel. So you have to ask for the full panel from your doctor. And here's what you need to ask for. Ask for your free T3, your free T4, your reverse T3, and antibodies. So I'm going to repeat that again if you got pen and paper. Ask for a full panel, your free T3, your free T4, your reverse T3, and antibodies. So you can look at the whole picture. And remember, the thyroid is a mirror. It reflects what's happening in your environment, your hormones, and your habits. So when you bring those into alignment, your thyroid follows. And you don't need to fix your thyroid. You need to listen to it. It's one of your body's most honest messengers. So let's put this into context with some numbers. According to the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, Hashimoto's is about 4 to 10 times more common in women than men, and most often develops in women between the ages of 30 and 50. The American Thyroid Association states that Hashimoto's is more common as you get older in both sexes, both male and female, and often happens in middle age for women. A study of age groups from 65 to 69, 70 to 79, and 80 plus found that hypothyroidism, which may include Hashimoto's, increased with age between 8.02% for 65 to 69-year-olds, 11.51 for 70 to 79, and 12.27 at 80 plus. Globally, the prevalence of Hashimoto's thyroiditis is about 7.5%. 95% of CI, 5.7 and 9.6%. So in women, prevalence estimates range roughly from 4.8 to 25.8%. In men, it's much lower, roughly around 0.9 to 7.9%. And the female to male ratio commonly reported at 7.1 to 10.1 for Hashimoto's. So it's really mostly a female problem, but some men also get it, depending on how your hormones are going. And that can really depend on your foods that you're eating. So, if your hormones are dropping, if your testosterone is dropping, if you have a lot of estrogen dominance, you're going to have man boobs, you're going to have a spare tire, you're going to have problems with your testosterone then. You might have fatty liver disease, which I talked about last week or 2 weeks ago. And you could possibly have Hashimoto's and you don't even know it. So regionally, higher prevalence is seen in low to middle income regions versus upper middle income. So in the low middle income, it's 11.4% versus the upper middle income is 5.6% in one meta-analysis. And this is because people who don't have the money will actually, not have the money to go buy whole foods. They think that it's actually cheaper to buy from McDonald's or Burger King or KFC, where those are really expensive. So when you go out to buy, say you go to Burger King and you get a Whopper, you get onion rings, and you get a soda, right? That's going to cost you, $8. You can make a whole soup for $8. You can buy some chicken for $6, and you can buy all the vegetables for $2. Chop it up, put it into a soup, and you'll have a meal for a week. Freeze some of it, right away so that it's nice and fresh, and then use the rest for the week. I mean, we're talking a big old pot. If you can get the bone in, If you buy a whole chicken, and so that's going to be a little bit more, maybe that's going to be $9 itself, but that's going to last you all week. Boil up the whole chicken, get the collagen and the fat and the all the juice, all the broth from all that, and then pull off the chicken from the bones. Do this over the weekend. You can do this. I know you can. And then throw in whatever seasonings you like. I like a little spicy, so I put in some red pepper flakes or some ancho chili seasoning. So if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who's been struggling with fatigue or thyroid symptoms that never seem to make sense. You can listen to the Larson Health Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And follow me on Instagram and TikTok for more behind-the-scenes health strategies, recipes, and hormone supportive insights. And if you're ready to take the next step and personalize your plan for thyroid and hormone recovery, visit LarsonHealthWeightLoss.com to learn more about my programs and one-on-one coaching. And LarsonNutrition.com is coming soon, where my podcast will be live on there. And there's going to be a lot more details than what Larson Health Weight Loss has today. So including like my awesome skincare line that is making my skin look amazing. It is all natural, all organic ingredients. And I'm going to make candles and lip balm and oh my gosh, the tin of stuff in my hands I have not had dry cracking hands, and it has been 29, 25, 30 degrees in the morning when I'm walking the dogs. And usually that dry air, my hands, my lips, my skin is so dry, but not with this stuff. It is really, it's been amazing to moisten my skin. So I sent out samples to my best friend and my mom and my husband's parents and his sister to get their insights. And then I sold some also at a recent event here in Northern Michigan, and the women are glowing. So I'm Kim Larson, and this is the Larson Health Podcast, where we bridge science, nutrition, and functional medicine to help you heal from the inside out. Thanks for watching today.